Alright, this is the Advance of Great Forces box presentation. Uh, Full disclosure, I kind of turbo rushed this one. We don't even have animations for the cards entering the scene. It would have taken like 4 minutes total to add all of them, so I just skipped that instead. Also, this background image is so clashy because I didn't know what card to put in the background when I made this like a month ago, like the template itself. So, you know, it is what it is. I guess there could be a slide that names all the archetypes that are in the box, but you know what? We're just gonna straight get into one of the archetypes. We're starting off with Ragnaraika, the entirely new from scratch archetype. Woohoo! It's an archetype of insects, plants, and reptiles. And due to this, I am introducing a new term for these cards whenever I go over their effects, which is a archetype, aka insect, plant, or reptile. We start off with the starter card, the Evil Seed, which almost always is a 3 of. In some like weirder hybrid decks, you might be pitching in like 1 or 2. I don't know. It seems kind of weird. Like, why even bother at that point? But yeah, this is the Pogger one. You can special it from hand by discarding a Rika type, hard once per turn. When I typed this slide, I hadn't invented the Rika type yet. And on summon, you can add 2 differently named Rika from your banish or graveyard and or deck except a seed, and banish a Rika from your hand, and then you are Rika type locked. And the effect is hard once per turn because, I mean, it's already crazy enough. This is your starter, as you might imagine. Next up, we have the Samurai Beetle. We love insects. This one can be summoned from hand. Also, you will notice a recurring theme for a lot of these cards, for both the main deck ones, how they summon themselves out, and for the extra deck ones, how they bring themselves back. So this one can be summoned from hand by returning a banished archetype from the bottom of to the bottom of the deck, and if he's used for a link summon for a Ragnaraika card, you can target and revive a level 4 or lower Rika type from your graveyard except itself. Which is pretty handy for classic, you know, link climbing. Wahoo! You make a link 2 and then you can make a link 3. Or maybe even more, but we'll get to that. Next up is Armored Lizard. This one, I've only seen played in like Ogdoadic, and I don't remember if it was played in the Traptrix list, maybe at one. But yeah. He's a goofy guy. You can summon him from hand by banishing a archetype from the graveyard. So, I mean, he is a free extender, I suppose. And he also has 2300 defense and no attack. So, stats are kind of awkward. You can discard a archetype from the hand to target a non-archetype your opponent controls and bounce it back to the hand. So, this effect is not horrible, but probably doesn't warrant playing. If you were to play some sort of a pure Rika deck, then he might be really nice because there's not a lot of ways to interact with your opponent like this, but yeah, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, as the last point says, both effects are hard once per turn, and nobody really uses this guy. So yeah, you know, he's there. Speaking of cards that people don't really use, but this one's really pretty, so you know it's different. Wicked Butterfly. You can discard to summon a Rika type from the hand, so you could tech this into like any of the Rika type decks that aren't Rika or that are Rika. And if this is banished from hand or graveyard, during the end phase you can draw cards equal to different number of Rika types you control. So you could draw anywhere between 0 to 3. Yeah. So probably you're in most decks that you're playing this, you're drawing like 1 to 2 cards. I don't think you're gonna be drawing 3 cards with this ever, but it would be very cool to see it. Both effects are on once per turn, and this is rarely used once again. Next up we have another card that you're probably gonna see a lot of because it's a part of the mini engine that is used in Rika. The Ragnaraika Bloom. Usually you play 1, but I mean, I don't know. Depending on what you're trying to do, you could play more. And I don't know why it suggested that you could play 0. I feel like you would never play 0, but it is what it is. All archetypes gain 300 attack and defense, and non-archetypes lose 300 attack and defense. And hard once per turn, you can either add a Raika monster from your deck to your hand, then discard one card, or special summon a Raika monster from your banish pile or your graveyard in defense position. So, again, more extension or searching. Kinda crazy. Moving on to the archetype trap card, Ragnaraika Hunting Dance. This is often played at 0 for the plant piles, but OCG does play it at 1 sometimes. They seem to like it a lot more. You can target cards your opponent controls up to a different archetype link monsters you control, so and then pop them. So realistically, you can target, well, not realistically, you can target 1 to 3, but in most decks, it's probably going to be 1 to 2, right? Again, because the reptiles they're kind of doing their own thing usually. Instead of being a part of the gang. And if a face-up archetype dies by battle or card effect, you can banish this card except the turn when it was sent there, and you can pop a monster your opponent controls. So this is like the in-archetype removal options for the most part. Yeah, I mean, it helps. It seems neat. Kind of a Garnet card if you're playing it in Plant Link, I imagine, but just don't draw it, right? Now we have reached the extra deck. This is the first one, and I believe the only one that sees any play in the Plant Link. So Ragnaraika Skeletal Soldier requires 2 monsters, including a Raika type. Not super restrictive, but I mean, of course, you do still need at least 1 Raika type card. You can target a Raika type in the graveyard, or rather a Raika in the graveyard specifically, and revive it in defense position. So you might already be realizing that when we make this guy, we bring back the samurai, and then this guy brings back another card. So we are getting the classic resident sleeper link climbing, get 2 materials back for summoning a link 2 type of deal. It's a little bit ridiculous in that regard. Also, you can target a Raika type you control, put it on the bottom of the deck, and if you do, you can revive this from the graveyard. This is a bit of a common effect for all of the link monsters. The only difference is this card states that if you use either effects, you are Raika type locked for the entire turn, which implies that it should be retroactive, whereas the other ones for the revives do not seem to retroactively lock you. They say they lock you for the rest of the turn. And speaking of the other ones, here is Mantis Monk. He requires 2+ monsters, including a Raika type. You can banish 2 Raika types from the graveyard, add a Raika trap from the deck to the hand, so this is a way to search for that removal. And he has the same type of revive effect, except he locks for the rest of the turn. Here's another Link 3, the Selene Snapper, 2 Raika types specifically, so a little bit less generic. You can banish up to 2 monsters in the graveyard, and then you could target that many opponent spells and traps and pop them. Very cool. If the deck was, more relevant or whatever, then this could be nice against any random stun decks you queue into, right? Or I guess you bell stuff as well, potentially. But, it is what it is. Same revive with the same lock for the rest of the turn. Then we have a very pretty card, the Link 4 Chain Coils. 2+ monsters, including a Raika type. So again, we are back from being super restrictive to being kind of restrictive. If opponent activates a monster effect, you can chain, and then you turn off monster effects in the hand for the rest of a turn. So neither player can activate monster effects in the hand for the rest of a turn afterwards. Kind of an interesting card, obviously probably meant as setup for going for game. But against some specific decks, it could be deadly. I don't know, you queue into Dark World, and then they can't use their dangers for the rest of a turn. With the GG, I guess, right? And we have the same revive with the lock, and the effects are once per turn. Hell yeah. Very cool. Yep, this one is rest of a turn. It's lowercase to highlight that it's a rest of the turn as opposed to that turn. I have already went over this. You are not catching anything being a mistake. This is on purpose. We also have the big boss guy, the Link 5 Stag Sovereign. He requires 2+ archetypes, so again, we're going back to restrictive stuff. If a monster is summoned from the opponent's deck or extra deck, you can pop 2 monsters. That's another removal, and I'm gonna be honest, for Link 5, this is very sad. He does not appear to have any protection, and he has the same revive effect. The only, like, neat thing is that he's easy to bring back, hypothetically, but yeah, this is a little bit rough. So yeah, basically, you oftentimes use a small engine for the plant deck with the Seed, Spell, Samurai, and Skeletal Soldier, but you can tech it in with, like, other archetype decks. Predominantly, so far, I've seen Traptrix, Ogdoadic, some Insect Piles, and a Naturia build as well, which, I mean, I don't know, for Naturia gamers who don't want to be Naturia Runic gamers, here you go, right? Like, that's something that you can consider now. And here is a classic Rika setup, but it technically could go into other stuff as well. You can go for the Seed, grab the Samurai and the Spell, you banish the Samurai. The Samurai will be returned with the Bloom, then you summon the Link 2, which will, you know, using the Samurai allow you to revive the Seed from the graveyard. The Link 2 revives the Samurai, then you have 2 plants to make Jasmine, you contribute the leftover guy, and then you go Lone Fire, and then you go plant stuff, and you do whatever the frick you want. I don't know. Alternatively, you could also, like, go into, like, anything else, right? You know, it is what it is. Here's an example deck list. We are showing off a Traptrix one. I don't know, I mean, how viable this is, but but here you go. Bit of a combo tricks type of list. Here is a Naturia featuring list. It also has some Therions for what it's worth. And also a Laurel. God damn. And I suppose the Sun Avalon extra deck. It's like more than the Rika Sun Avalon tends to play. But, you know, it is what it is. And the last one is some Ogdo list, but it also features, like, I don't know, some plant stuff and whatnot. It is what it is. Moving on, we have Aroma. They seem to mostly just be added onto the Plant Link deck, primarily. Like, technically, you probably can't play them on their own, but, you know, it's not looking like people are really doing that a lot. We have Rosalina. She tends to be played at 2 to 3. As a quick effect, discard, target an Aroma card, and then you heal for half of its attack. On summon, she can special summon Aroma from the deck, but you're plant locked for the rest of the turn, so that seems really good. Insane, in fact, even. And both effects are 100 once per turn. But yeah, grabs an extra body, also sets up interaction via healing. Very good card. We have Aroma Blend, which tends to be played at 1. You can discard a card to place an Aroma Winds trap card from your hand or deck face up in the spell trap. And you can also banish it from the graveyard to fusion a plant by banishing materials from your hand or field. But if your life points are higher, you can also banish from the graveyard. So, you know, it's a fusion spell, and it also sets up your winds, which are a part of both, you know, just your grind game in general, but also your effects with your new extra deck monsters. We have Aroma Healing, which, as you can see, is played at -5 copies, as far as I can tell. I mean, it's not, like, completely unusable, but let's go over it real quick. You can gain 1,000 life points for each Aroma monster with a different name you control, which, I mean, wow, I love healing. And not like the card that I'm going to play at multiple copies if I'm playing pure, especially can't do that already, but whatever. You can banish from the graveyard, target an Aroma monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field, and then you can gain 500 life points. So again, another like way to heal, delayed, I guess, but you know. Also, by the way, only one effect per turn and only once per turn because like they were too powerful. Am I crazy in saying that Konami are very like, I don't know if bipolar is the right way of describing this, but they are very odd with their decisions on when they put on an effect that says, or a restriction that says one effect per turn and only once that turn on a card like this, but then they don't do it on cards that are like even in the same archetype significantly better. Like, what are you what are you doing? Why? This is like the card designed by the little brother, but then you want it to be worse than it already was. But yeah, I'm not even sure if you play this in the pure deck because everything that it does can be done by other cards. The healing is already accessible. You already have cards that can revive. So, I don't know. If you like pretty girls, you know, maybe you play this in a pure deck, but I don't think it's gonna see activation outside of like silver and below. We have the Aroma Lilith Magnolia, which is played at 1, at least in the plant link piles. She requires an Aroma monster and a plant. While your life points are higher, your controlled plants can't be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. And soft ones per turn, you can pay 2k life points, banish cards on the field equal to the number of wind spell traps you control. And soft ones per turn, if you heal, even during damage step, you can make all currently controlled plants gain attack equal to the life points gained until the end of the turn. So, you know, she is removal, she is protection, and she is attack boost. And she is also very pretty, which is very important. Last but not least, we have Aroma Lilith Rosemary. She requires 2+ plants. On special, she can add an Aroma card from your deck to your hand, so we love generic searches. Wahoo! If you heal, even during the damage step, she can special summon up to 3 Aroma monsters from your hand to the arrows, or her arrows. And you can tribute 1 monster she points to, target 1 card in the field, banish it, and if you do, heal for 1k. So, potentially small removal, but usually used for heal proccing on your turn, as far as I could gather. All effects are hard once per turn. Here's an example of use. In pure, you could go Rosalina, special summon Laurel from the deck. You link off into Jasmine, link to search for Princess as an extender, tribute for Mardell or Lonefire or anything. Get that Angelica. Link 3, add blend for humid winds by discarding the Angelica, self-revive the Angelica because your life points are higher, and then you fusion into the new girl, and then you search for Marge, and then the Link 3 can summon Marge, and then you can synchro level 6, and you can search for dried winds, and now you have like dried winds and freaking other winds and the humid and whatever, and then you chill. And then Rika, like, as far as I can tell, obviously you can start off your plays as well with like Rosalina, but probably fairly common scenarios that you tack it on to later. Like after you've started your plays, you go Link 3 and then you search blend and then you set up revive and then you proc Jasmine again and yada yada yada, and then you can get more bodies. Here's an example deck list. This one does include the Ragnaraika, which is why I didn't include any plant link piles in the Ragnaraika list before. As you can see, we have the 3 free seed and the samurai and the spell and the link 2 because, you know, they're really good. Wait, is that a D shifter? Okay, anyways, moving on. We have Ancient Gear. Woohoo! We love going second with Ultimate Pound. For this one, I am introducing shorthand in case you are reading the slides, which are saying pretty much the same stuff that I'm saying. AG, which is Ancient Gear, and AGG, which is Ancient Gear Golem. I guess there's also AGDG, which is Ancient Gear Dark Golem, or whatever his name is. But I think it's going to be relatively self-explanatory. We have the Ancient Gear statue, and we're starting off strong with a card that sees play at 0 to 3 copies. This one can be summoned for free if your opponent controls more monsters than you, but can only be summoned once per turn that way. And you contribute it, special summon, an Ancient Gear Golem or one monster that mentions it from the hand or deck except itself, aka, you know, like Gear Statue, ignoring summoning conditions. This is also something that you will notice a lot on Ancient Gears, both old and new. There's a lot of cards that say ignoring summoning conditions. We have Ancient Gear Commander. This guy seems to be a lot more relevant. I'm not quite sure why lists mention 0 copies. Maybe you can play lists without it still and just play it old school, but I feel like he's probably mostly played at 2 copies from what I've seen. You can send one Ancient Gear Golem from your hand, deck, or face-up field to the graveyard. Normal summon one Ancient Gear monster on the resolution of this effect. If you summon Ancient Gear Golem, you can special summon one Ancient Gear Golem from your hand or graveyard ignoring summoning conditions. And you can banish this guy from the graveyard to place one Ancient Gear continuous trap card from hand face up on the field. This seems to be the most relevant effect for the OTK setups because they did in fact get a continuous trap card that contributes to this OTK strategy. Each effect is hard once per turn. It's a 3. Only Lightsworn running 3 is TCG since they don't have it. Okay, well, I trust your input on that, I guess. I've seen a lot of ones that ran 2, but it would make sense to play this guy at 3. Alright, we have the Tanker, which seems to be ran at 1 to 2. We have on summon effect, special summon one Ancient Gear monster from your hand except itself ignoring its summoning conditions. If opponent has a monster, you can special summon from the graveyard instead as well. And you can check out a face-up card you control, pop it, and if you do for the rest of a turn, all monsters you control that are Ancient Gear Golem or mention it gain 600 attack, each effect hard once per turn. I feel like this one's not that interesting. Statue, by the way? Oh, statue? Okay, alright. We have Dragon. This card feels like it's more built for going first type scenarios. So I think a lot of people don't include it, but I mean, it's not a completely awful card, which is why I have a question mark here. But yeah, this one can't be special summoned. Wow, that totally matters, right? If you control no monsters or all monsters you control Earth Machine, you can summon him without a tribute, so his level 5 status doesn't really matter all that much. And hard once per turn, when an opponent activates a spell trap card or effect, you can send to the graveyard one machine from your hand or face up to the field, or one Ancient Gear Golem from the deck to negate that effect. So not a horrible card, but again, if we assume that we are mostly playing this as a go second OTK deck, this card does not really do anything for said strategy. Now we have the Ultra Rare from the set. Well, the guaranteed Ultra Rare. They will probably have another one, but who knows? I mean, they do have a couple Ultra Rare cards already as is. And if you were thinking about playing this deck and were worried about Ultra Rares, this guy seems to be consistently played at 2 copies, so at least you don't need the entire playset. Wahoo! Let's go! His name becomes Ancient Gear Golem on the field and in the graveyard, and hard once per turn on summon you can activate an effect that doesn't allow you to set cards for the rest of a turn. This is an Ancient Gear gimmick, and you can add up to 2 Ancient Gear cards and or Gear Town from your deck to the hand except Ancient Gear Dark Golem, and then discard 1 card. By the way, notice that this is a very eerily similar effect to Ragnaraika Seed. I feel like the same designer made both cards because goddamn dude, what the heck happened? Anyways, if this card attacks, opponent can't activate spell trap cards until the end of the damage step. Do note that this means that they can activate the effects of spell trap cards that are already face up on the field ahead of time. You know, so it's not safe from the Sea Stealth attack. This is a Duel Links moment. We have Ancient Gear Advance. A very cool looking card. I thought this was someone's wallpaper at first when I saw the artwork, and then it turned out that it was just a card art for a card that they released. But yeah, this one seems to be played at 3, and you will probably understand why in just a moment. Is the OG Golem UR? I don't think it is. I would really hope that it's not. But I think the fusions are all UR though, or at least the big ones. And also Gear Town is a UR in Master Duel. So when this one is activated, you can add Ancient Gear Spell Trap from your deck to the hand except Advance. You can't set cards for the rest of a turn or the turn you activate this card, and can only activate 1 copy per turn. And once per turn, you can tribute one monster. Dar... I don't even remember what Dar is. Oh, draw one. Okay, I was like, what? Dar? Draw one. How did that happen? What the heck? You can draw one and apply the following effect for the rest of a turn. You can normal summon Ancient Gear Golem and level 5 or higher monsters that mentioned without tributing. Very cool. We love normal summoning without tributing. Epic. I mean, you can summon Dark Golem, right? So that's cool. It helps. Dar 1, yeah. Dar 1, guys. And the alluded to continuous trap card, Ancient Gear Duel. Me, whenever I queue up with Ancient Gear in ranked. Ancient Gear Golem and monsters that mention it in your monster zones are unaffected by your opponent's activated monster effect. Very epic. And hard once per turn, if your opponent controls a monster, you can fusion summon one fusion monster that mentions Ancient Gear Golem from the extra by banishing from the field or graveyard as a material, including Ancient Gear Golem you control, and if you do, it can attack 3 times. Whoa! Big Bungus attack 3 times. No way! That's crazy. This is a combo example for what you might do when you play this deck. First you activate Lightning Storm, then you activate Dark Hole, then you normal summon Ancient Gear Frame, and you pitch a card to search for advance. Then you advance, add Catapult to pop advance, summon Ancient Gear Dark Golem, Ancient Gear Dark Golem, search for Trap and Commander, who will be discarded, and then activate his effect by banishing himself from the graveyard to activate the trap card from the hand face up. And then you fusion into Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem to attack over a Blue Eyes White Dragon, and then 2 times directly for over 10,000 damage. It's crazy. That was like unironically a video that I clicked on. I think it was like 4 Ancient Gear combos you need to know or something. I mean, if you ever are faced with a singular Blue Eyes White Dragon on the field that stayed after your Lightning Storm Dark Hole, they didn't do the first part, by the way. They started from step 3. If you're ever in that position, you know, this deck will got you covered. What does it do? Going first, seems that it mostly cries. You can, like, especially if your build is made for it, you can technically spam out some bodies, and then I've seen people end on like Uppo with like 3 negates and then a rank 8 for negates, either monster or spell trap, or spell rather. And going second, you just, you know, like summon the gear fusions and just OTK and the wahoo. So a lot of the deck lists that I got in general for this box were, well, first of all, they weren't tailored to Master Duel or OCG. And they were from YouTube videos where they like to like put them at weird angles. So, you know, you can look at this. I don't think this is quite how you would play it, but, you know, that's, you know, that's something, I guess, that you can consider. I feel like this is a weird list because it's not fully focused on going second, but like also going first is weird. All right. We have Lightsworn, the white archetype. Wahoo. And the shorthand terms on this one is LS means Lightsworn. Crazy, right? And JD means Judgment Dragon. Also, I guess PD means Punishment Dragon. I didn't know that was going to be relevant beforehand. We have the new Chibi Judgment Dragon, the Dragon Link, who's played at 3. If you have a Lightsworn in the graveyard, you can just summon this hacker from the hand. On special, you can send a Lightsworn from the deck to the graveyard, except Dragon Link. That's pretty freaking insane, by the way. Just saying. And if sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 dragon with 3000 attack and 2600 defense from the deck to the hand. I entered those stats and I checked, and the only results that came up for the main deck were Judgment Dragon and Punishment Dragon, which, I mean, I assume is probably on purpose, but just in case you were curious, it doesn't seem like you can search. You were curious, the Lightsworn guy. It doesn't seem like you can use this to search for anything unintended which is either good or bad depending on where your allegiances lie, I suppose. But this guy can set up level 8 synchros, I believe. So, you know, there is that. We also have Weiss, Lightsworn Archfiend. You can place one Lightsworn card from your hand on top of a deck, and then special summon this guy from the hand, and then you can send the top 2 cards from the top of the deck to the graveyard. I imagine in real life you could probably desperation cheat and be like, I mill 2 cards, pick up 2 cards at the start, and pray to God that you mill the Lightsworn alongside the Tear Lament or whatever that you put on top of the deck, but who knows, right? If he's sent from the deck to the graveyard, you can check out one Lightsworn monster in your graveyard except him and summon it. Both effects are hard once per turn, and he is also a tuner. This is full Fiendsmith combo. Bat chest. He is a light fiend. Fiendsmith is luckily not coming in this box. Spoilers. We have Lightsworn Aegis, which is played at 0 to 1 copies. You can target face-up cards your opponent controls up to a number of Lightsworns you control and negate their effects until the end of its turn. And if it's sent from deck to graveyard, you can just set it. Wahoo! Each effect is hard once per turn. And it has a really cool artwork. I really love this artwork. If it can be a super rare, it would probably make for a really nice royal. And then we also have the Enlightenment Dragon. I'm gonna be real, I feel like he looks freaking awful in that gold yellow coloring. Requires Judgment Dragon and Punishment Dragon and must be special from next turn by banishing both from field and graveyard. And once per turn, during your end phase, you send the top 4 cards from the deck to the graveyard. If destroyed in its owner's possession by opponent's card, you can add 2 banished monsters, JD and PD, and then special summon both, ignoring their conditions. Also, he has another effect that I didn't notice. Quick effect, you can pay 2,000 life points, banish all other cards on the field and in the graveyard. Yeah, that's a little bit better. I was like, wait, that's not, there's no shot this is like, he has that much text and he doesn't have another effect. I don't know what happened here, but you know, I mean, that effect's like not the worst, I suppose. But it's also not great. And the last card, and probably the prettiest card, Minerva, the Athenian Lightsworn. I don't know, she's just like Greek now, I guess. She requires a tuner and 1+ non-tuners. She is generic. Lightsworn monsters you control can't be banished by card effects. Wahoo! On Synchro Summon... on Synchro Summon, you can send Lightsworn monsters of different types from the deck up to a number of Lightsworn monsters used as material for her. And you can banish up to 4 Lightsworns from the graveyard. Send that many cards from the top of the deck to the graveyard. So she sets up more milling. Very cool. And her effects are once per turn. Why? Because that was the highest resolution image that I could get. The other ones were kind of blurry or off color. So, you know, fatta. Yeah, I think she's Italian, right? I was gonna say. But okay. Effetto. What do? They mill. And they can set up a level 8 for tier access. Because 1 level 8 synchro equals tier field spell searcher man guy. And I didn't grab any deck lists because one, I made this slide like a couple minutes before the stream. But also because the Master Duel list, the Master Duel ban list is a little bit different. So, you know, just imagine tier elements and some Lightsworns together. And they're milling stuff and they're setting up the level 8 synchro guy with the little dragon guy. And also you mill with charge, and it's very epic. Yes. We also got Genex. Whoa, that's crazy. An old ass unplayable garbage deck that now has a Link 1 that does everything for it. And if it gets imperfect, you just die. Very cool. We got Genex Touring. You will notice that there's no use count. Again, I looked at a couple lists. The thing with this deck, as a preface here, is it mostly looks like literally just YouTube combo deck. Which means I didn't really trust like anything. It also looked like nobody was really super invested in the deck, and they were just like kind of, this will work. Ratios were interesting. A lot of the monsters were at like 1 to 2 copies. It's like I had 2 of this and 2 of that one. So, you know, it is what it is. This guy has a hard once per turn effect during opponent's main phase. If you control a Genex monster, you can special him from the hand, then immediately synchro into a Genex synchro. And if he's used as material for a Genex synchro, he can be treated as both level 1 or 3. So he's 1, 2, or 3. That's crazy. A bat chest. We get Genex Undyne, the Duel Links classic for dumping Crystron or Crystron Selfefnir or the Whale. Wahoo! Once per turn, you can banish from Genex monster from your graveyard. This card gains that monster's attribute, and then if it was a tuner, this will be a tuner until the end of the turn. And if you control a Genex Synchro, you can target 2 Genex in your graveyard, including this card, add them to your hand, also banish any card sent to your graveyard for the rest of a turn. I love macrocosmosing myself for the rest of the turn. We got the titular boy, the Link 1 guy, the man, the myth, the legend. Repair Genex controller. You must do it. He requires 1 level 4 or lower Genex monster. Wow, those sure are requirements. Can only be special summoned once per turn. On Link Summon, you can add a Genex monster from your graveyard to your hand. Once per chain, if a Genex monster is added to your hand except by drawing, you can immediately normal summon 1 Genex monster. Also can special summon from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except synchro summon by using a Genex tuner as material. So, as you can imagine, you just keep adding, using effects, adding, and then summoning, and then you can loop bounce with the Genex or the ally Birdman guy, and he bounces back to the hand, and then because it was bounced back to the hand, you could summon again. Yeah. And then we have the new boss monster, Arms of Genex Return 0, who seems to be played at 1. Requires a Dark Tuner, and then 1+ non-tuners. So, not entirely generic. When opponent activates a monster effect, you can banish 1 monster from your graveyard with the same attribute. Attributel, what the heck? Attribute, negate the activation, and if you do, you can destroy the monster, and each attribute banishes, obviously, once per turn. So you can't just repeatedly negate dark monsters over and over again. That would be kind of crazy. But hypothetically, this represents up to 6 interactions every single turn. And it has 3100 attack and 2950 defense. So even Gogigagagagigo can't attack over it. That's crazy, man. 7 true. 7 negates even. And once per turn, you can target up to 6 different attribute Genex monsters in your graveyard and banish spell, shuffle them to the deck. Then you can destroy that up to that many cards in spell trap zones. So, I don't know, it's like kind of a weird, again, copy-paste effect from that one Ragnaraika card. It's like, whoever made Ragnaraika just copy-pasted random stuff from other archetypes, I guess, because, you know, we've seen a very similar effect already today. And as an addendum to this card, if you happen to pull it or something, it does seem to be playable in some super heavy samurai type hybrid piles and white woods. So, you know, it might be worth keeping a copy of him. He doesn't seem like completely awful, right? Yeah. What does it do? It spams out a bunch of bodies, as we talked about, and then you get impermed before, and then you just can't play the game. And you can make, like, this butter, and the FA, Don Dragster, and Barone, and the new guy, and, like, you know, whatever the frick you want. And the deck list, like, I don't know, but I grabbed some more from YouTube afterwards. I was like, you know what, frick it, sure. And as you can see, these are, you know, like, these are deck lists of all time. You have, like, one of that guy, one of the other guy, like, two of this guy, like, two of that other guy, three of, like, whoever the heck that guy is. Then we play a bunch of stuff that protects our Link from being just turbo cucked with Imperm and whatnot. We have like the triple frickin' Sauravis. We have the goddamn Eagle Booster because it is a machine. Yeah, the 2 Ash, you know, these are definitely optimal ratios. So I would not really look at this and think, damn, I need to play it like this. But that's just something that you can keep in mind. Here's another one. Wahoo! This guy plays more 3-ofs and like he plays 2 of the Undyne. So, I mean, it's different. But triple Sauravis does seem to be a very uncommon thing that a lot of people appear to be feeling like they need to include, because this deck completely dies if your Link gets fricked. Very cool. This is just a random extra slide that I kept. I made this at the start of August. This specific.
I love Genex, I love Genex, I love Genex.
Thank you for the bits. I made this one at the start of August, and I was like, what else could come out in this box? Hypothetically, Goblin Bikers, Snake Eyes Poplar, not really a deck, but you know, it is what it is. Ashened, probably not, you know. The Cacophony stuff, I don't think it's a deck, but there seem to be a couple cards. But most likely it's bundled with Melodious, and then I was like, okay, if we don't see Melodious, then it's probably not going to be here in Melodious. And Genex, and I only got one, to be honest, so, you know. I mean, I guess better than nothing, right? And here's potential upcoming stuff that should be coming in the next couple months. We have Ritual Beast, we have Infernoid, which hasn't come out. I will be very amused if we actually get Ib with, like, the box afterwards, just because it fits with, like, when it got, like, reprinted because of being unlimited, because of the errata or whatever. We'll see how that goes. There's obviously Melodious, there's Senpai, Shining Sark, Goblin Bikers, Big Gabonga, and Ashen maybe at some point. I mean, this one's kind of tough because OCG recently got it. B-Troopers we got a little bit before they got in physical, but, you know, I don't think they're, like, turbo rushing to release it. But then again, I wouldn't be too surprised if they're like, heck, dude, Goblin Bikers and Ashen in the same box. We're gonna make the worst box possible. I mean, what? Yeah. And I can post this in the chat afterwards. It's the background art. And thank you, Konami. Very cool. That's it. Thank you for entertaining my presentation. It was very sloppily made, even by my standards. But I feel like we got, like, you know, we got, like, most of the stuff across.